Recently, we talked about orthorexia in 2 different videos. I definitely recommend going to check out those videos. The links will be in our description, because today what I want to talk about is the overarching category that actually orthorexia falls under. And this category is actually other specified feeding and eating disorders, or for short, Osfed. Now, what this is basically the catch-all for all of these individuals that are dealing with an eating disorder that might not fit the specific criteria for anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder, right? And so, as you can imagine, that's a lot of individuals, because not everybody who restricts is going to be severely underweight. Not everybody who purges or self-induced vomiting purges multiple times a week, again, to meet that very specific criteria that's laid out for anorexia, bulimia, whatever. But that doesn't mean that these people aren't dealing with eating disorders. It just means that their eating disorder is manifesting in a different way. So I wanted to bring this up today because I feel like this is a category that, again, applies to another video that we recently talked about with this idea of being sick enough, right? Because what's easy to happen is the eating disorder convinces you that you're not sick enough. Like, oh, you're not, underweight enough, so you don't have anorexia, or you only purged once last month, you don't have any issue there, when really these are behaviors that, regardless of frequency or size or whatever it is, definitely need to be worked on. So what specifically falls under Osfed, right? Now, the first one, like we mentioned, is orthorexia. Again, go check out those videos if you can. But orthorexia is that obsession with healthy eating. Another one would be actually atypical anorexia nervosa, which, kind of like I mentioned, would be someone who's maybe severely restricting their intake, but they don't have a severely low weight, or maybe their lab values are still normal, even though they're restricting to less than 500 calories a day or something like that. The other one would be binging, but again, the frequency of the binge may not meet the criteria for what's laid out in the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual, which just a sidebar here, the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual is how we diagnose all of these things. When you go in and look, it gives you criteria for all of this. Now, Osfed is a part of this, the DSM for short, the DSM-5, but again, it's the catch-all. So maybe you're binging, but you're not binging to the frequency that's laid out in the DSM-5. Maybe you're purging, maybe you're obsessively exercising, maybe you were abusing diet pills or laxatives. Any of those things would probably fall under this Osfed diagnosis because, again, it's not the specific criteria for these other eating disorders. Now, again, that's not to minimize the severity of some of these behaviors. It's just that's how diagnosing works, but your eating disorder can take that and run with it and tell you like, oh, see, you don't have bulimia, you just take 6 laxatives a day, or whatever it might be, but that does fall under this Osfed category. The other one is actually purging disorder. So this one, I think, kind of goes under the radar in a way, because I think people assume that when you're purging, it just means that you must have binged. So you binged and then you purged. But it doesn't always work that way. There's a lot of people who purge even when they haven't binged, or there's a lot of people who purge because it's a coping mechanism for anxiety or something else that they might be dealing with. I've even heard from family members that are in college that they're telling me that they'll go to the bathroom at a bar or something, and then they hear girls saying that they're gonna purge because they feel bloated from drinking beer or something like that, which maybe some of you are like, oh yeah, I do that too, or that seems harmless, but it's not. That's that disordered behavior that, again, gets really, really sneaky. And so Osfed, again, is that catch-all to diagnose all of these things so that you get the treatment that you need. Now, the other one is actually night eating syndrome, right? This doesn't necessarily fall under binge eating, because frankly, it might not be a binge, but it's waking up in the middle of the night recurrently, eating at night. So all of these things kind of fall under this Osfed category, which is a very common diagnosis, one of the most common in all eating disorder treatment. And so just because it's easy to convince yourself that maybe you're not low enough weight or you're not purging as frequently as might fall under some of these categories doesn't mean that you don't deserve the help. So I wanted to talk about this today because I'm going to do a similar thing that I did with orthorexia, and next I'll do a video on a case study who actually, this person was diagnosed with Osfed, so that you can see how that impacts the metabolic test and body composition analysis. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the case study coming on Osfed next.